Since 2001, each year the Competitive Enterprise Institute pays tribute to free market economist, professor, and consummate optimist Julian Simon. Julian's work and legacy are recognized with the presentation of the Julian L. Simon Memorial Award. It goes to an individual who advances a vision of mankind as the ultimate resource. This year, CEI was pleased to honor Dr. Steve Horwitz, director of the Institute for the Study of Political Economy and a distinguished professor of free enterprise at Ball State University. He's the winner of the 2020 Julian L. Simon Memorial Award. Now, the award is usually a central part of CEI's annual dinner, but the coronavirus pandemic made that impossible. Instead, with extensive precautions in place, I traveled to visit Professor Horwitz at home in Indiana. It was a joy to present the award to someone who so clearly exemplifies our vision for the future. We took some time to reflect on Steve's career and the lessons of Julian Simon.
Steve, tell me, what has Julian Simon meant to you?
Well, I think Julian's confidence in humanity, his optimism, his emphasis on human progress and the ability of human beings to attack and solve any problem that came to them. I think, to me, those are things that I find profoundly inspiring, and that certainly have motivated my own career. I think thinking about the way in which the last 250 years of human history have been a story of progress, and understanding the nature of that progress, and understanding that progress can continue despite what people claim, whether economically or environmentally, that we're headed for doom and gloom. Julian's not just optimism, but his optimism backed by the facts, I think has been incredibly influential to me in thinking about how to talk about economic growth, how to talk about economic history, how to talk about what it means to be human beings, and what the long sweep of human history is really about.
Okay, I'd like to get at the heart of why I'm here, which is you. I want to understand that and share that and have a record of it for people in the future.
All they have to really do is go to my Facebook page if they want that.
Like you, I married up. My wife is a better person than I am in all sorts of ways. And you, like Professor Simon, married an economist.
Well, she's actually a literature PhD.
Literature PhD.
Yes. She just plays an economist.
Correction for the record. Yeah. But I want to understand who's Steve Horwitz? Father, husband, professor, public figure, Facebook provocateur, music fan. What do people need to know about you?
Well, maybe that I'm all of those things, and I think at the core of many of those things that you just listed, I think I'm a teacher. At the end of the day, all of those things are about many of those things, not all of them. Many of those things are parenting is a form of teaching. Public intellectual work is a form of teaching. Classroom is teaching. The research I do in peer-reviewed journals is also a form of teaching, I think, as well. I think that's and I think good teaching is good explaining. And I think when sort of my professional parts of me that you mentioned, I think if people say he's really good at explaining things in ways that other people can understand, that to me is one of the highest compliments that I can get. But who else am I? I am a father. I have 2 adult children from my first marriage and 2 stepchildren from my current marriage, and I love being a dad. I'm a dog owner too. My dog is almost as famous as I am on Facebook, but the dog's not here today. We had to put the dog in doggy daycare to stay out. Otherwise, he'd be in every shot we have here. And I'm a husband, and I think I hope that in all of those things that you've talked about, that I took all of those things seriously. I didn't blow any of them off, and that in each case I thought that if people say of me, or if I say of myself, I thought about how do you do those things well? Anything worth doing is worth doing well. So if I'm going to do X, how do I do it well? What does it mean to be a good husband? What does it mean to be a good father? What does it mean to be a good music fan? I think that's a legit question too, right? I love good food, right? Getting every last bit of enjoyment out of life to me is another part of who I am. Someone who it's part of the optimism, and that's a Julian Simon thing too, but sort of someone who found in everything a reason to enjoy it, to celebrate it, and to see the good in it. I don't think there's been a day in my life where I can say honestly I don't know what it means to be depressed. I don't know what that word. I mean, I understand that other people are, and I understand what it means for them. I don't know. I don't have that in me. Even as I've dealt with my health issues over the last few years, I don't think I've ever been depressed. I've been more optimistic and less optimistic on different days. So I think, who am I? I'm someone who is relentlessly optimistic, and who approaches all of the roles that I have in my life, trying to do them well, trying to do them optimistically, and trying to have fun. I think if I'm befuddled by people who can't manage to have fun doing the things that they love. And there's so many things I love to do, whether it's be in the classroom, whether it's writing for public intellectual, whether it's hanging out with my family, whether it's eating a great dinner. Have fun. We might be the ultimate resource, but we're not an infinite resource, and we don't live forever. There's only so much time, and you're wasting it if you're not enjoying what you're doing, and you're not treating it with respect if you're not doing it well.
Part of the driver for this selection in 2020 was that essential component of being a teacher. We saw you as a man who does it with this infectious, contagious enthusiasm and complementary compassion. And those elements, I think, are very important, but also, like I said, extend this legacy and send that light out into the world. So
part of why I'm so happy to get this award is I'm a CEI fan. CEI's been on the radar since CEI was founded. I've been at this long enough to remember those days. And when I think of CEI, I think of a few things. First of all, I think of a place that's been remarkably intellectually consistent in their defense of free enterprise. No one has ever, I think, sort of said CEI is squishy, and I think that's important. But at the same time, one of the things I love about CEI, and we were talking about this earlier, there's a kind of optimism and humor and I don't know if informality is the right word, but a joyousness, yes,
okay.
A joyousness about CEI's work that I think comes from Fred, and I think comes from sort of admiring people like Julian. That CEI has always entered the fight as a happy warrior, and that to me is differentiates it as from lots of other think tanks, and for me is a real plus. And so those are if you play word association, what comes to mind when you think of CEI? Those are the kind of things. So for me, getting this the combination of CEI and Julian Simon is just ideal.
I think my next question is going to invite you to restate some of our conversation, but I'd like you to really hone in for us. Help me understand, what does it mean when someone says man is the ultimate resource?
Human brains and human creativity and human ingenuity are boundless, are limitless. And one of the things that Julian often got in trouble for was sort of suggesting that there was no limits to growth. I mean, the line about, well, the energy of the sun might be the only thing that's our limit. People say, well, that can't be. How can that be? And the scientist types in particular would say, well, law of thermodynamics and conservation, that physically, and Julian's response was always, but wait a second, you're missing the most important variable in the system, which is the human mind and human creativity, and that finds ways to solve problems that we can't anticipate ahead of time. Even as we speak, right, there's 165 different candidates for a COVID vaccine out there. Those are human beings with, human minds trying to figure out how to solve this problem. And we're way ahead, I think, of any schedule that people would have predicted 6 months ago in terms of getting a vaccine. Why? Because human beings are pretty amazing. So when we say man is the ultimate resource, what it means is that we can't talk about any system of resource use without recognizing that part of that is human beings, and human beings bring into that an open-endedness, an infinitude, if that's a word, that physical resources can't capture.
Steve, you've used a term that I think it's lost currency, but it's not wrong. You've talked about the idea of being a public intellectual, and I want to pick up on that because I see another trait, and I want to get your take on this. Another trait in common, I see another trait in common you have with Professor Simon, in that he was right in the vital debates of the day. In the 1970s, he's taking on the doomsayers, the big public bet with Paul Ehrlich, lots of press. It's kind of a big deal to challenge someone's credentialed position, best-selling author, tenured professor at a famous university. And you dive right into the debates of today. You do this fearlessly, or apparently without fear. And I think it takes a certain sense of audacity, a certain chutzpah. Is that correct? And do we have enough of it? And I want to put this in context of so much of current debate is not civil. It's not rooted in empirical information. It's just throwing names around. And I don't know that it's a fine line, but there is a line between chutzpah and things that are just not constructive.
I think we owe it to ourselves. We owe it to our children. We owe it to the future to make the best case that we can for these ideas in all the places we can. But I also think it's important to do that humanely and to do it in ways that don't open us up to kinds of charges of not caring, or of not being sensitive to the fact, go back to an earlier conversation we had, that there's still real poverty out there, that there's still real problems out there. One can talk about the gains we've made in resource usage in the environment and still recognize there are environmental problems out there. And then the question becomes, all right, what are the real problems? What are the best policies to tackle those?
Cultivating these habits of assuming goodwill, of rooting things in the argument or in the evidence, not in the personalities or things of that sort. I start from the premise that our liberal institutions will be resilient enough to handle the current moment. But that's an open question. And I wonder if you believe that those institutions, the way we interact with neighbors, the way we interact at our workplace, the media, and like you, I'm not a big fan of the term cancel culture. I'm not sure what it means precisely. Are those institutions that we're investing enough into? Or are we assuming that this is all something that can be atomized? Is there a collective action problem that exists in our current moment in America today?
I think, ironically, I think that our material progress makes it easier for us to render those institutions somewhat invisible, right? I think one of the things I've learned from teaching is that it's easier to convince students of the fact of material progress, harder to convince them that liberal institutions are really the key to making that material progress possible. I mean, we all have these conversations, perhaps with family and friends, and they, oh, well, it's technology, right? It's the reason why we're reduced to less technology. Well, wait a second. we know from world history there were lots of technologically advanced societies that did not, turn that technology into changes that benefited people's lives to live longer, better, more rich lives. So it can't just be technology. And we've learned in our own time we can't just give technology to other parts of the world and expect technology alone to create material progress. You need liberal institutions to make that happen. And one of the ways I put this when I teach it is to talk about to get innovation, you need inventions, but you need institutions too. So inventions and institutions give you true sort of innovations that improve people's lives. And so I think we don't perhaps invest enough in talking about the importance that those liberal institutions have for making that progress possible. And I think many of the same young people who are, being critical of those liberal institutions. I mean, it always, it's an old thing, an old trope, but the kids who are out there complaining about capitalism on their iPhones and their right, or better yet, complaining about billionaires while they have everything that Apple ever made. Right? How do you think those guys got to be billionaires in the first place? You did that. That doesn't happen by magic. I think sort of making that connection between liberal institutions and progress is important. And we've been talking a lot about optimism, and I am a relentless optimist. Having said that, my optimism about liberal institutions is being tested these days, as I see from so many different sides, so many people wanting to give up on liberal institutions or heading down the path of illiberalism. That moment is scary in a way that I can't think of another moment. Again, I think those of us who are old enough to have grown up at a time and watched the wall fall are used to a story of optimism, liberal optimism, right? The world of the Cold War was not a pleasant place. And suddenly by 1989, 1991, things look very different. And now to see walls being proposed and built again is a scary thing, and one I think that I didn't see it coming, and is testing my optimism. I think we'll survive it. I think liberal institutions are resilient in just those ways, but boy, it's a little scarier than I'd like it to be.
Next, I'd like to read just a few lines of your own work. I think they're just packed with important ideas, and I'm going to ask you to reflect on them for us. Within the last year, you wrote, "Unfortunately, we are at a dangerous point of losing this learning these days, thanks to the revival of the forces of nationalism and socialism. There are a lot of reasons for this, but I do think that liberals need to engage in some self-reflection about whether our own rhetoric and way of talking about economics and liberalism doesn't bear some responsibility for our dilemma. How often do we speak of markets as sources, not just of prosperity, but prosperity for the least well-off? How often do we speak of markets as the cause of peace and social cooperation and mutual interdependence? How often do we talk about markets, how markets have humanized us and reduced our propensity to violence and turned strangers into honorary friends or kin? It's important to stress the material wealth that markets produce, but the point of even that is enabling us to live lives of peace, cooperation, and security." Can you just reflect on that?
Well, I think there's two things going on there. I think one is, our own rhetoric about how we speak about economics, and we get caught up in focusing on the material things, and understandably, right? I mean, I think particularly, I don't say guilty of it, but it's a focus of mine to sort of talk about how well we're doing materially. But the point of those material gains is to create a world in which people can live lives of dignity, lives of comfort, lives of security. That's what we care about. And I think having that human vision at the center of what we do is really important. It's particularly important, I think, when we look at the sort of return of socialism and the rise of nationalism. And socialism has always sort of argued for that sort of humanistic perspective that the socialist future will be great for people in a way that was important and sort of enable people again to live lives of dignity and so on. And we put liberals in the position of having to say, well, no, but it won't deliver the goods materially. True, it won't. But what we need to emphasize now is delivering the goods materially is only important because it enables us to reach that same kind of vision that's at the heart of socialism. And so I think that giving a liberalism with a vision like that is one that might attract back younger people in ways that we fear we're sometimes losing them. And even with nationalism, where the criticism is that liberalism is too atomistic, people are too individualistic, there's nothing to hold them together. I think that you can talk about the ways in which liberal institutions and material progress give us the time and the space to indulge in the things that build community. We have time to go to synagogue, to go to church, to go to the mosque. We have the time and the resources to engage in charitable activities. We have the ability to create families and know that they will be, you know, safe from that will have material goods, but that will be safe from predation or whatever else. So I think, to me, all of those, stressing that the material matters because it leads to lives of dignity and cooperation and peace and security, that's, I think, a way we need to talk more often about liberalism and markets.
I wonder if you could share with our audience the wonderful interpretation you have that happens every day all over the place with commercial exchange, and it goes by the name of the double thank you.
Well, as you said, we all do it, and it's a great example of the little things that sort of add up to the big things. We've all experienced it. We go to the grocery store, we go to the deli counter, we order our turkey, we get sliced, and they wrap it up and they hand it to you, and they say, the deli counter says thank you. And what do you automatically say back? Thank you, right? Or you're checking out at Target. Thank you, thank you. We do this all the time, right? We both sides say thank you. And it's evidence of the win-win nature of exchange, of the mutual benefit of exchange. But it's polite, it's civilized, it recognizes the way in which the other person has done something for us and we've done something for them. It's the whole notion of exchange and the division of labor and specialization as social cooperation, as positive human interaction, as peaceful human interaction. And we think about the long stretch of human history, and we read the history and we watch depictions of it where it was all about, again, people clubbing each other over the head and running each other through with swords. And now the way that we interact with each other is far, far more often, thank you, as opposed to the other. And I think the way that markets and liberal institutions have made that possible and made civilization in that sense, social cooperation possible, I think is remarkable. And it's as you say, it's a little thing that we take for granted. But when you notice it, once you notice it, you'll never not notice it, and hopefully not ever take it for granted.
Steve, who are your heroes?
Oh, well, I have three kinds of heroes. I have my intellectual heroes, many of whom are on the list of previous award winners. I mean, these are the people like Julian who were innovators, intellectual innovators, who were intellectually brave, who approach their job with humanity. These are the people whose ideas I rely on, Mises, Hayek, and so forth. That's one group. I think there's a second group, though, which are the people who might be in any profession, but who did their work with excellence. I love watching excellent people do what they do. I wrote a column one time about watching a short order diner cook prepare multiple breakfasts at the same time. That's my secret desire, by the way, is to cook breakfast, short order cook at a diner.
What, Waffle House?
Yeah, like a Waffle House, exactly. Yeah, like a Waffle House. But people who do their work with excellence, and especially people who again walked outside the mainstream and held to their integrity and sort of said, I'm going to do it my way, and did it their way and did it well, and in the end paid off. And I think for me, this moment that we're celebrating here is that for me. But there's a third group, and this one's a little more personal. I think there's a group of invisible heroes, and they're out there right now doing the same thing, which is people who have agreed to be subjects for clinical trials for medical research. These are people either sometimes with the disease, or in the case of COVID, who don't have it but are testing the vaccine, who are willing to risk their health and their lives to make possible advances for other people. And there are millions of nameless people out there who have done this work, and people who have done it for the particular disease that I'm dealing with, I wouldn't be alive if it weren't for those people right now. And I think that that they are very much unsung heroes, and I think need to be recognized.
As he worked through the 70s and 80s and 1990s with this prominence, in the next generation, where are we likely to find the next Julian Simon?
So folks who are willing to not just be right for the journals, as it were, right? Who are willing to take their ideas out there, and who see as part of their mission, as Julian did, is educating the public. They're not just in it to play the academic game.
Okay, so what is one thing you wish the public better understood about economics?
Oh, I know. I get this question a lot. I think my answer now, and particularly in the context of this conversation, is going to be that economics is actually not about material things. Deirdre says economics is what happens between your ears. I think that's one way to look about it. That economics is about how we improve human lives, about how we make lives of dignity, lives of progress. And so that it's not about stuff, it's not about money, it's not about the material things.
And thank you for having us at your home and spending all this time with us and helping us create this set of messages that we so very much want to share about Julian Simon, about these ideas that you've worked on through your career.